The snow fell in gentle, quiet sheets over the glittering city, coating rooftops, lampposts, and empty streets in a soft white blanket. It was Christmas Eve, and for most people, the night was filled with warmth, laughter, and the hum of togetherness. But for Alexander Reed, the billionaire CEO who owned half the skyline, it was just another evening spent in silence. His penthouse was adorned with the finest holiday decorations money could buy, gold-trimmed garlands, a towering crystal-lit tree, and rare ornaments imported from Europe, but none of it made the air feel less cold. Wealth had given him everything except the one thing he had secretly longed for his whole life: family. That night, he had left his office later than usual. The streets were quieter than normal, the kind of stillness that makes footsteps sound louder. He walked through a narrow lane toward a small bakery still open, its windows glowing warmly in the night. Alexander was not the type to shop for himself. Assistants usually handled every detail, but tonight, something made him stop and go inside. Perhaps it was the scent of cinnamon and freshly baked bread, or perhaps it was the faint sound of a child's laughter coming from somewhere nearby. Inside, the shop owner, a kind older woman, greeted him, offering a cup of hot chocolate. He accepted politely and leaned on the counter, looking out through the frosted window. That was when he saw her. A little girl, no older than 6, wearing a worn red coat with buttons missing, stood just outside the door. Her boots were wet from snow, her cheeks pink from the cold, and in her mittened hands she clutched a small teddy bear whose fur had thinned from years of love. She stepped forward hesitantly, peeking through the bakery door before entering. Her eyes scanned the room, and then they landed on Alexander. She walked toward him without fear, stopping just close enough that he could see the faint shimmer of tears in her eyes. Then, in a voice so small it seemed almost swallowed by the hum of the bakery, she said, "Can you be my daddy for one night?" Alexander froze. His grip on the cup tightened ever so slightly. The room around him seemed to fade into silence. Of all the boardroom challenges, billion-dollar negotiations, and ruthless business moves he had mastered, nothing in his life had prepared him for this question. He could have laughed it off, asked her where her parents were, or ignored her entirely, but something about the way she looked at him, with innocence and a longing that mirrored something deep inside him, held him in place. Before he could speak, the bakery door opened again, and a young woman hurried in, her hair damp from snow and her scarf loose around her neck. She looked exhausted, but her eyes lit with relief when she saw the girl. "Lily," she whispered, rushing forward to scoop the child into her arms. "I told you not to run off like that." Lily hugged her tightly, but then turned her gaze back to Alexander. "Mama, can he be my daddy just for tonight? Just for Christmas?" The young woman froze for a moment, clearly unsure what to say. She offered Alexander an apologetic smile. "I'm sorry, sir, she's been asking for that since last Christmas. It's just the two of us, and, well," she saw the decorations and thought maybe, her voice trailed off, the unspoken words hanging in the air. Alexander didn't know why he did it, but he found himself saying, "Maybe we could all share a little Christmas together tonight." The woman blinked in surprise. "That's very kind, but..." He held up a hand gently. "No expectations. Just dinner. I have a tree, more food than I can eat, and I think I could use the company." Within the hour, the three of them were in Alexander's penthouse. The grand space was warm and bright, but it had always felt like a museum, until Lily's tiny voice filled it with laughter. She ran from room to room, gasping at the massive Christmas tree, touching ornaments with wide-eyed wonder, and giggling when she saw her reflection in the shiny golden baubles. Her mother, Emily, watched her with quiet joy, though there was a trace of hesitation in her eyes, as if unsure if they truly belonged there. Alexander found himself setting aside the formal, polished version of himself that the world knew. He knelt beside Lily to help her hang ornaments higher on the tree, told her the stories behind the decorations, and even let her place the star at the very top. Emily joined them, and soon they were sitting around a fire, sipping cocoa and sharing stories. As the evening went on, Alexander learned more about them. Emily worked 2 jobs to provide for Lily after her husband, Lily's father, had passed away in an accident. They had little, but she always made Christmas special in small ways. This year had been harder than most, money was tight, and the cold had been unforgiving. By midnight, Lily had fallen asleep on the couch, clutching her teddy bear. Emily rose to take her home, but Alexander stopped her. "You can stay here tonight. The snow's getting heavier." Emily hesitated, but eventually nodded. He brought out extra blankets and made up a cozy guest room for them. Before she went in, she turned to him. I don't know why you did this for us, but thank you. I don't think I've seen Lily this happy in a long time. He smiled faintly. Maybe I needed it just as much as she did. Christmas morning came with soft sunlight pouring through the windows. Lily awoke to find small wrapped gifts under the tree with her name on them. Nothing extravagant, just a set of warm clothes, a book of fairy tales, and a pair of boots that actually fit her. She squealed in delight, running to hug Alexander. For a moment, time seemed to slow. In her small arms, Alexander felt something he hadn't known he'd been missing all these years. It wasn't about wealth or luxury, it was about connection, about the simple joy of being wanted and needed. They stayed for breakfast, and when it was finally time to leave, Lily looked up at him with her big brown eyes. Thank you for being my daddy for one night. His throat tightened, and he could only manage a quiet, "It was my honor." As the door closed behind them, Alexander stood in the silent penthouse once again. But this time, it didn't feel quite as empty. There was a warmth lingering in the air, a memory of laughter, and the faint echo of a little girl's voice that would stay with him long after the snow had melted. That night had started as just another lonely Christmas Eve for a man who thought he had everything. But in a single question from a child, he had discovered something priceless, proof that even the coldest winters could be warmed by kindness, and that sometimes the smallest acts of love could change a heart forever. And though Lily had only asked for one night, Alexander knew deep down that he would carry the meaning of that night for the rest of his life. Because some gifts don't come wrapped in paper, they come in the form of people who walk into your life unexpectedly, leaving behind warmth that never fades.